back because I predict these things.
Gene Silva takes on Diego Lopes this Saturday as the main event of UFC Noche. This is a really exciting main event. Diego Lopes returning after his title shot loss to Alexander Volkanovski, looking to bounce back against Gene Silva, who's been on an absolute killing spree. 5 finishes in a row in the UFC, undefeated in the UFC, looking like an absolute stud. So looking forward to this one. This is going to be a really good fight. Gene Silva, he's 28 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach and 16-2 in his career. So only 28 years old, barely into his prime. Still got a lot of potential, a lot of improvements that he can still make in his career. But he's very explosive, has really powerful kicks, throws spinning elbows, tomahawk elbows. He's just very athletic, tons of power, very big for 145 pounds. Was kind of throwing around guys, throwing around Drew Dober even when he moved up to 155 pounds. Has really strong 1-2s, fast hands, manages the distance very well. He has kind of patient pressure where he's moving forward with intention but not recklessly. Just looking to kind of land his shots but not take a lot of damage, kind of draw guys into throwing, look for his counters. Has a really nasty check left hook that he lands on guys. Fights well on the back foot, just kind of sliding right out of the way, landing his counters. And he feints really well. Constantly moving his hands to kind of keep you guessing, kind of keep guys on edge. Good chin, takes a shot well. Haven't really seen him wobble. He got tagged a few times in the Drew Dober fight, but nothing that was ever concerning in my opinion. But just has really good defense, and not defense in terms of like hand placement or head movement, but just that he's very elusive. He does a really good job of staying out of range, maintaining a distance between his opponent where he can land and they can't, kind of throwing strikes, moving out of the way. Doesn't check leg kicks very well, which is concerning. Diego Lopes throws really hard leg kicks and kind of leaves it open for attack. His legs when he's kind of leaning back defensively. But jiu-jitsu black belt as well, great balance, excellent takedown defense. If he does get taken down, does a really good job of bouncing right back up to his feet. The Bryce Mitchell fight, Bryce was deep in on his hips on a lot of the takedowns and couldn't get him, but threatens very well with chokes, guillotine chokes, front chokes, like ninja chokes, like we saw in the Bryce Mitchell fight when guys do get in close. So great cardio as well. Never been an issue. Never really seen him tire out. Haven't seen him in a 5-round fight yet though. So Diego Lopes, 30 years old, 5'11", with a 72.5-inch reach. 26-7 in his career. So he's going to be 3 inches taller. No, sorry, he's going to be 4 inches taller. And going to have a 3.5 reach advantage in this one. Longer guy, but I would say Gene Silva is the kind of the more muscled up, denser dude. But Lopes, also very good. Wild at times on the feet, kind of thrown with bad intentions, but kind of wings his punches at times. Puts a lot on his punches, but he does have a lot of power. I think Ige said that he was kind of the hardest hitting guy that he'd faced. But sometimes comes straight in, just charges forward, which is concerning against a guy like Gene Silva. Again, has nice low kicks, which he can use in this fight. Can be hit. We saw him getting hit by Volk, getting hit by Ige, and also jiu-jitsu black belt. I think he's the lead jiu-jitsu coach at his gym. But I'm gonna go with Gene Silva in this one. Diego hasn't faced the best competition. You look at his career. He beat Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini couldn't get his takedowns going, doesn't have the best striking. Beat Movsar Evloev in a very close fight, but he took that fight on short notice, was just able to kind of hang with him in the grappling and do really well with his wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Sub Gavin Tucker, which I don't really rate that win. KO'd Sadiq Youssef, who I don't know if he's as good as we thought he was. Recently beat Brian Ortega to get his title shot, but Brian Ortega, he just hasn't looked the greatest, maybe not the best in hindsight. Brian started to kind of grow in that fight too. As the fight progressed, he was able to start, having a little bit more success on the feet. So his wins haven't aged very well, and I'm starting to wonder if he's not as good as we thought he was. His performance against Volk was, I rewatched it, and it was good, but Volk is just on a different level, and I think Gene Silva is too. I think Silva will he'll kind of pull out the wild combos, the wild strikes of Diego Lopes, using his feints, using his forward pressure. I see Silva kind of frustrating him on the feet, landing the better strikes, where Diego starts to kind of get wild, get desperate with his strikes, with his takedowns, maybe start to panic takedown just to get a little reprieve, to find a little success or maybe a little break to where he's not constantly being pushed back or damaged. I think he'll start shooting for takedowns. Maybe he'll partially get them, but John Silva does a great job of defending takedowns, and if he does get taken down, he pops right back up. He's also a jiu-jitsu black belt as well, so I think he can kind of stay safe down there. I just see Gene's pressure, his onslaught, his takedown defense kind of taxing the gas tank of Diego. We've seen Diego gas a little bit in some of his fights. In that Dan Ige fight, it was only a 3-round fight. Ige took that on short notice. And he dropped the third. You know, he didn't look the best in the third, was kind of just laying on his back, went to his back to kind of survive the round, knowing that he won the first 2 rounds. And I get it. He cut weight like 2 or 3 times for that fight during that fight week. So I get it. That could have played a part, but still not good to see against an absolute marauder like Gene Silva, who's going to be looking to push the fight and not just stand back and kind of point strike. So Diego does well when he blitzes and kind of fights wildly. And you can do that against some of the competition that he's faced, a lot of the competition that he's faced in the past, but I just don't think you can do that against everyone, and I definitely don't think you can do that against somebody like Gene Silva. You know, we saw Volk have success in the pocket, finding openings with Diego's kind of looping striking style. If he does that against Gene Silva, I think he's going to get sparked. If he fights a measured, slow pace, Silva will eventually take over as well. So it's kind of hard to say what his approach should be to this fight, but I think it's, you know, he just needs to slam the leg kicks, shoot takedowns to kind of open up his striking, maybe tire Gene Silva out, get some points, get some damage on the ground, look for submissions, and just push forward, looking to land big strikes to stand a chance. Kind of similar to what he did in round 4 against Volk, where he kind of just cut his losses and just went for it, and, you know, saw a lot more success than trying to be a little bit more strategic against a guy who's a little bit more highly skilled. So he does have power. He can knock out Gene Silva. You know, he's shown that in the past, shown an ability to chin guys when he goes for it. But I don't know. I think that if he does fight that way, he does fight aggressively the way that he normally does, he may get chinned. You know, fighting forward, fighting aggressively. I think that's what Gene Silva wants guys to do, so that he can kind of pull them into his counters and do a lot of damage that way. But I just don't see Diego Lopes winning like a technical stand-up matchup, like a technical tit-for-tat, out-strategize, out-technique somebody like Gene Silva over 5 rounds. I think he has to make it dirty and try to catch him in transition or catch him in mid-combination. But I do think Gene Silva wins this fight. I think he does get it done by KO. He's given me 0 reason in his UFC career to pick against him at this point. You know, he's got a lot of really good wins. His only decision that he's gone to in like the last 7 years was against Kelvin Vallejos, and we know how good Kelvin Vallejos is. So I'm going to go Gene Silva. I think if he finds his range and starts having success, he'll build. You know, he starts to build in confidence. He starts to snowball against his opponents, starts picking up the pace against you, getting more aggressive, you know, taking more chances as he finds out your rhythm and your timing and kind of what your game plan is, and just kind of starts to stack on the points and the damage and take over. And I think that's what's going to happen in this one. Kind of gets guys twitching, biting on his feints. They start panic shooting because they're kind of worried about the power. They can't find any success or safety in the grappling because he's very good there too. And they eventually just get caught, you know, put to sleep either by KO or by submission. So I think Diego Lopes has a slim chance to win this on the feet and catching Gene Silva, but I think Silva's just gonna be a little bit too good, a little bit too talented everywhere. So I'm gonna go Gene Silva to get this one done. I think he can get the KO over Diego Lopes. Thanks.